This is a man's world.
You bet it is, son.
This is a man's world.
But it ain't nothing without a woman or a girl.
Hey, greetings. Welcome to Man Cave. This is the man's world. It's an incredible time. I'm telling you, it is an incredible time. So today, we're talking about legacy. I know this is going to be such an experience. So if he's male, if he's masculine, and if he's a man, invite him to the broadcast. I want to talk to as many gentlemen as I can, as many men, as many brothers as I can, because I understand the importance of what we're about to share today. So today, I thought, would be some sort of, such an experience. It should be such an experience. And what I'm going to share with you, I'm definitely sure is going to tremendously change your life. It's going to change the trajectory of your entire life. And we're talking about legacy. So, if you were preparing for this broadcast, you should know that we're talking about, 7 ways, to a legacy, to building a legacy. And that's what we're talking about. So I had a conversation with somebody today, and they asked me a question. They asked me a question, and they said, "What would be key to Kenneth becoming Kenneth, and to the kind of mentality that I have now?" And I said to them that I embraced the idea of delayed gratification. Not instant gratification, but delayed gratification. And that is to say that if you can understand that eating now or pleasure now sometimes will jeopardize, sometimes will eradicate the beautiful thing that was supposed to come later. You know what I'm saying? There's an individual, that I had an encounter with, somebody that I personally think that they absolutely wicked, you know, who was an entrepreneur and who was in the property space. And one day we were traveling from one place to another. So I was intrigued by his, his business and his entrepreneurial ability, because he was buying properties, all over the city. And I used to stay in that place some years ago. And then I asked him a question. I said, "What is key to the real estate business?" And he said to me, "You have to understand that instant gratification is what destroys the building up of a real estate company. If you want to eat now, you would not be building. You will not be able to build what you need to build in the next 10 years." And he said to me that for some time I had to, live like a slave. My family had to endure a lot of situations and a lot of circumstances where we did not have what we could have. The money that we would have probably spent on the furniture, on buying, luxury motor vehicles and all of that, did not happen. We ignored all of that. And we took the entire money and we put it up on property. And even when the property was paying back on the month-to-month basis, we then decided that the money would rather be used, to building up a portfolio to help us buy other properties. And I thought that was really prolific. So although the relationship, I would say, almost destroyed me, if there's anything that I got from that relationship was that particular idea. The fact that you have to understand that, it's not about pleasure now, it's about building for a better tomorrow. So it's okay to live like a slave now and live like a king later, And that is the mentality that I think is very key as it relates to legacy building. You have to be selfless. You have to ignore instantaneous pleasure. You have to ignore instant gratification, and embrace the idea of delayed gratification. It's very key. It's very, very important. And I thought probably this for an introductory insight will be very key because legacy is an intergenerational thing, so it goes beyond your lifetime. So you really have to be selfless. You have to ignore much of what you can enjoy in the present day and think about, the joy that will then proceed out of the life of your children as a result of what you're building now. You understand what I'm saying? So legacy is really for an alpha male because an alpha male, in his thinking, in his mindset, he thinks, posterity over prosperity. So most people, when they get prosperous, all they think about is enjoying the prosperity. But an alpha male understands that it has to go beyond my lifetime. So I cherish then, I celebrate the posterity. I endure everything I have to endure for the sake of my posterity. So even if it means that I don't fully enjoy, and I mean I don't live in opulence, I don't live in great leisure, I don't live a luxurious or opulent kind of life, an exaggerated, ultra-rich kind of lifestyle for the sake of the next generation. All right, then it then begins to then help you. It then begins to position you for a better, greater tomorrow. Because nobody that is selfish can build a legacy. All right, a man controlled by his hunger pangs, by his drive, by his lack of volition to be able to control himself and handle what is going on and prepare himself, for a transfer, then it's a bit problematic. I don't know if I'm helping somebody here. All right, it's way problematic. So now, just think about this. Just think about this. Legacy has to do with the fruit of the Spirit. You got to have the fruit of the Spirit, or you got to have some sort of, if I was to talk to secular people, I would say emotional intelligence. All right, cerebral intelligence. I'll talk about volitional intelligence. And that is, you got to have the ability to be able then to control, all right, your emotions, number one, because sometimes, because people aren't happy because, they're saving a lot or they're buying a lot of properties that will then make money later, or the property is cheaper now and you cannot enjoy the profits out of the property on an instant basis. You still have to pay it off and all of that. Because you don't have that emotional intelligence, you might find yourself selling it just so that you can go buy a car. You have to have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is that you don't allow things happening on the outside to control the knowledge that you have on the inside. If your purpose is to secure somebody's future, if your great grandchildren must be financially secured, you have to make sure that you're not controlled by what's happening on the outside. So even if your associates are buying Bentleys, Rolls Royce, Mercedes Benz, BMW, you don't allow that to influence you and end up using the money that has to be some sort of a sustainable base for building the legacy for your great grandchildren. All right, let me just probably, put it this way. The word wealth, by the way, in the Hebrew language, when you look at the book of Deuteronomy, for it is the Lord God, remember the Lord your God, for it is He that gives you the ability to create wealth. That word wealth is a Hebrew word, kayel. All right, and kayel is a descriptive word. It gives you a side of what we may refer to as a well. All right. So you have the well of Jacob. The well of Jacob goes to the 12 sons of Jacob. You have, wells transferred by Abraham to Isaac and from Isaac to Jacob and all of that. So basically what you have here is a legacy model. So true prosperity is generational. It is not true prosperity if it's not to the greater posterity. It is true prosperity if it's transferred to the greater posterity, and posterity has to do with the generation out of your loins. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So I thought I should really share that with you, and I thought that was really important to understand. So now I'm talking to men, all right? So legacy becomes very, very important because a man is celebrated for his name. I mean, the Bible says in Songs of Solomon, it says, your name is better than purified oil. And it says, even the virgins love you. A man with the name is always celebrated by a group of people celebrated in the society. There is always a class of people who will recognize you and who will celebrate you on the basis of what you have built or the name that you have. Solomon is who Solomon is because of who David was. So Solomon would not have a name if it wasn't for David. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So legacy is not about is about life and not death. It's about life. It's not about death. The strength of one's legacy is really experienced in the days of his death. But the life of his legacy is experienced when he's alive. You understand what I'm saying? So legacy is not about, it's about life and not about death. Legacy isn't about tomorrow. Legacy is now. So what you do on the present day, prepares, other people for what happens tomorrow. So when they celebrate their tomorrow, it is on the basis of what happens today. So the now is more important than the tomorrow. Although the strength of what happened yesterday is actualized tomorrow, but the power is really in the now. So what you do now is very, very important. So I thought, probably let me talk to you about 7 things that also, disturb a lot of people from building a strong legacy. And number 1 is a lack of focus. Most men are not focused. You understand what I'm saying? I was watching this particular interview, and it was Mayweather talking to this particular individual. I think his name is Kenny something. And I really felt bad because my name is Kenny. And this particular individual was questioning Mayweather about a lot of things and all of that. And Mayweather said something that I wouldn't really say to somebody. He said that you are a man of many trades, but a master of none. He says, you cannot even talk to me about boxing because you know nothing about boxing. You deep and dap into everything, but you don't have an actual focus. He says, you cannot address, the game of boxing because you are doing a whole lot of things, and therefore you don't master any craft, but you are into a lot of crafts. And that for me was pretty concerning. And I thought about it and said, a lot of men are involved into a lot of things, but really aren't focused on what they're doing. Because if you are doing something and you're giving yourself to something, it better be generational. Because if you're going to be prosperous doing something, it's not true prosperity unless it can go to a greater posterity. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, today, when you look at, Spirit Word Ministries, today you see Spirit Word House because there's a legacy. Something was transferred from the previous generation to the next generation. Prophet Kobus van Rensburg has transferred something to Petrus van Rensburg today. So it's generational. True prosperity is generational. If it's not generational, guess what? It's just success. And trust me, nobody will really be proud in their grave over success. But we will all be proud if we have some form of legacy. So lack of focus is the number 1 problem that we have. So as a man, you've got to make sure that there is just one thing that you are doing that you want to transfer to the greater generation. It's not just about success, it's about prosperity. It's about the next generation, it's about the greater posterity. Number 2, living the life others want you to live. And sometimes, because of outward happenings, we allow inward reality to be dented. We allow inward reality to really be taken away. Is your inward reality is accomplishing something, and I was born for this. I was born to build this particular thing. You cannot allow people to then influence you to live a life that you're not supposed to be living. Let me give you an example. The problem in South Africa today, I saw a gentleman all over social media being scrutinized for going to is it Louis Vuitton, going to whatever brand that he bought, and then he bought paperbacks. He could not afford the contents, or he could not afford clothes or clothing in that particular store. Then he makes a decision to buy paperbacks, and he uses now paperbacks to take pictures. So this social media lifestyle where people are living fake rich lifestyles. And now because everybody looks rich on social media, you're now spending the money that you're supposed to be investing. You're now living, a wild life with a low budget. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot afford to live a wild life with a low budget. And this is what's going on social media everywhere, because there's so much peer pressure. Everybody wants to come across as successful because, some of your high school, fellas in varsity now, and they're coming across as successful. And now you want to make sure that, you get to be counted among the greatest. And let me tell you something. When you really have money, you don't have to go around showing it off, because here's the thing. The secret of wealth is in the secrecy of it. So people that are really wealthy, they want to keep it a secret. But broke people want to come across as rich. Do you understand what I'm saying? You see, the goal is to actually be rich and not to look rich. The goal is to be successful and not to look successful. Because there's a lot of people who look successful but are really broke and are really struggling. You understand what I'm saying? Number 3, bitterness, anger, and fear. Some people are just terrified. All right? They have phobia for success. They're afraid of failure. And the truth of the matter is, for one who then succeed is as a result of failing so many times that, succeeding is just a part of who they are. Because if you're failing at doing something for a couple of times, you end up being more informed about something more than somebody else. Let me give you an example. In the business that I'm in, I would rather, talk to somebody who failed many times trying to do that kind of business than meet somebody who tells me that I'm so good at this, I've never failed one day in my life. Because people who have never failed will always use you as their test report. They will use you to test their skills, and they will fail with you. So sometimes it's better to be with somebody that has failed before than somebody who has never failed, because you don't even know how they deal with failure. You understand what I'm saying? It's very important. It's very, very important. Bitterness as well. You have to be bitter. You have to be better, not bitter. If you're bitter and you leave companies trying to go build your own company out of bitterness, out of anger and all of that, when you then sober up, you won't have the zeal, the tenacity, the power, the inward will, the inward volition, the inward drive in order for you to keep on building, because it does not take emotions to build a company, it takes consistency. And if you're building something on the basis of anger, on the basis of frustration, on the basis of bitterness and all of that, you're most likely not to keep on doing what you need to do to see it successful. All right? Consumerism. All right? Consumerism is one of the problems that we have. We are so used to be the ones buying. We are so used to be the ones eating. We're so used, to be the ones, served our like hunger pants. We're so used to making sure that we're satisfied, that we don't even know how to delay all of that in order to secure something solid. You understand? We don't have what is solid. Why? Because we are consumer minded. We are so consumer minded. Everything that we get involved in, we just want to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. All right. So urgencies and smoother priorities. People will rather do something that is easy than doing something that. Let me tell you something that I've learned over the course of time. See, money does not like nice people, but it does not have a problem with people who do not mind doing hard things in order to make sure that money is flowing. Money doesn't like nice people. And some of the most rich people I know are the most meanest people. They don't mind, cutting off a deal or suing somebody or doing anything like that. And I'm not talking Christian to Christian. All right, by the way, Christians need to learn how to use, all of those services. We need to learn to sue, wicked people, not Christian to Christian. You know what I'm saying? All right, but make sure they're really Christian. So safety is, so our safety, we love to be in the safe place. We love being in our corner of safety. We love being in that place where we feel secure, and therefore we don't now do anything that's uncomfortable. Because you know what? When you are willing to do what's uncomfortable and get things done when they're the hardest, you're the one who will be paid better. Let me put it this way. You see, when you solve a 5,000 Rand problem, you get paid 5,000. When you solve a million Rand problem, you get paid a million Rand. If you solve a $1 billion, a billion dollar problem, you get paid in billions. And that is the life that we live in. You understand? It's all about problem solving. So most people that love a sense of safety don't like, problems, and therefore they don't like problem solving. Now, just think about this. David has to take the lunchbox to his brothers who are in the battlefield, who are hungry but underworking, which is quite interesting. Here's Goliath, speaking all kinds of curses and intimidating the children of Israel. And there's the king. Saul is also in their midst. And David comes into that particular situation with a lunchbox. He gives them lunchbox, their lunchbox. They're now eating, but they're not working. There's this instant gratification that they're fulfilling. They're eating, but they're not working. But now there is a problem they're not solving. I mean, the mere reason why you're getting food in the battlefield is so that you can face the problem in front of you. But no, they will rather enjoy the food and not deal with the problem in front of them. David comes into the situation and says, there is no way in hell a man is going to talk to my people like that. And I'm going to then stand in the name of the Lord and make sure that I deal with this. Now, because he understands how business works, he says, what is it that you're going to offer? And now the king starts binding himself. I'll give you my daughter, and then the throne will be prepared for you. He has the anointing, but in order for the anointed to be appointed, the anointed has to solve problems. And the number one problem is Goliath in this situation. Now, remember this principle. Don't forget it. If you can solve the problem that is bothering your boss, you always get the job. If you can solve a crisis that your boss is faced with, you are most likely going to be in his position. If you can solve the problem of your senior and you are a junior, you are most likely to be a senior. That is just a kingdom principle that I have learned. If you can solve a problem of somebody significant, you're most likely to be important as well. All right. So now, let's go now to, these 7 ways to building a legacy. Please do remember this. These are very important. All right. So number 1 is that you have to discern. All right. You have to discern the presence of joy. You have to dare to joy, to be joyous, to be joyful. All right. That's very, very important. That's very, very important. If there is a sense of peace, if there is a sense of joy, and if there is a sense of love, that is the place where you belong. You don't build a legacy where you don't feel peace, where you don't feel a sense of love, and you don't feel a sense of joy. You cannot build anything that you do not love, that you don't have peace about, and that you're not joyful about. That is the first thing that's very key. That's the first thing that you have. So before you do anything in life, you have to ask yourself a question. And the question is, Do I love doing this? Do I feel a sense of peace doing this? And am I joyous doing it? You understand what I'm saying? Because if you do something that you do not lie, that you do not love, that you're not at peace with, and you don't feel a sense of joy about, you're most likely, not to accomplish what you need to accomplish. So that's very important. Number one. All right. Number two, you have to monitor your impact. Monitor your impact on others. How does this affect people around me? All right. And that is your family. Because the truth of the matter is, if your family and the people that you will have to transfer what you're doing to aren't excited, they're not happy about what you're doing, they're not necessarily in love with it, they're not at peace with it, there's no sense of joy about it, when you die, it's most likely not going to be transferred to anybody. And that's why when you do research, we are told that, a fortune or a legacy or a company transferred to the first generation is most likely to be destroyed by the third or by the second generation, or even the first generation. So if you have a property company and your entire family is not, nobody in the family is at peace, is joyful about it, no sense of joy about it, you're most likely in the wrong place. You have to make sure that your children or your children's children are as passionate about what you're building as you are, because it has to be transferred to somebody else. Because remember, a legacy is intergenerational. It has to go from one generation to another in order to go to the next generation. So your children's children is the people that you should be concerned about. But then your children are the most important bridge to get to your great-grandchildren. You understand what I'm saying? It's very, very important. The Bible says that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his great-grandchildren. And the truth of the matter is the opposite is also true. And that is, a wicked man leaves nothing for his great-grandchildren. So sometimes we don't even have to ask if you are a righteous man or you're right with God. We have to look at what are you doing now to make sure that your great-grandchildren are secured. Because the truth is, when you continuously get to know Jesus, you'll be concerned about your generation. You'll be concerned about your great-grandchildren. The salvation that you have received, you'll be concerned about transferring to your great-grandchildren. And there are different forms of legacies. There's spiritual legacy. There is economical, entrepreneurial legacy. There is domestic legacy. There is all kinds of legacy. So when it's domestic legacy, it's very key to know how you're treating your wife and how you're taking care of your family, because your son will know how to treat their wife and your daughter will know how to be treated by their husband. So what you're doing now in your household will be transferred to the next generation, whether you like it or not. Oh, please, you got to hear me loud and clear. Whether you like it or not. I was looking at my mother growing up, and my mother was in this, abusive relationship, domestic violence. Then, by the help of the Holy Spirit, I made a decision. No woman around me will be beaten. My wife will be treated like a queen. My wife will not be treated like this. And I will be doing this in the memory of my mother. So no matter how angry and frustrated I am, I will never beat my wife, because I always remind myself how it made me feel looking at the circumstance and the situation. My mom died as a result of domestic violence. And therefore, that's why I'll put my life on the line to make sure that does not happen around me and in my household. It's a legacy, God. It's all about the next generation. It's all about the next generation. Real men are always thinking about the next generation. I'm not treating my wife well just because of her. I'm treating her well. I'm treating her like a queen because these people are looking at me. My girls are looking at me. My boy is looking at me. My spiritual son, my spiritual daughters, everybody's looking at me. How I treat her is how they're going to treat their wives, and it's how they will allow themselves to be treated as wives in the nearest future. So it's very important. That is domestic legacy. Financial legacy, economical legacy is all about building companies that can be transferred to the next generation. making sure that what we're building now can be, in the hands of my sons and my daughters so that it can be transferred to their sons and daughters, and their sons and daughters will transfer it to their sons and daughters. And that will make me feel very successful. Not successful, prosperous. I'll feel very prosperous. And that's why the root word for prosperity is holistic and is also generational. When you look at it in the Hebrew and in the Greek, it's holistic. It's every aspect of your life, but at the same time, it has to do with the next generation. That is true prosperity. Number 3, you have to develop and maximize your talent. Whatever God has given you, I was talking to somebody today about the 10-talent leader and the 1-talent leader. See, when you are a 10-talent leader, you're most likely to be in trouble than the 1-talent leader. When an individual has 1 talent, they focus on that talent. They know how to work on their talent until that talent is so solidified and it has structures in place to be transferred to the next generation. But then the guy with 10 talents will have to learn how to then contextualize all of those talents in order to accomplish one purpose. You see what I'm saying? You see, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a great business negotiator. All right? I do all of those things. I do all of those things and many other things. You understand what I'm saying? Now, how do I synchronize all of this to make sure that there is that particular thing that I want to accomplish? All right. So we need to learn how to develop and maximize our talent, our strengths, our skill. You got to know yourself. If you're going to build a legacy, you got to know yourself. And then you have to build that craft, that skill, that talent. You understand? You see, there's a difference between the God-gifted and the talented. When you're God-gifted, your talent is not within the realms of normacy. It's very unusual. But at the same time, you have to still learn how to maximize it. You still have to learn how to make sure that the craft is sharp and strong and effective, and it also impactful. All right. Number 4, do what matters now. And what matters now is not instant gratification, it's delayed gratification. Build solid now. I said some time ago that your first 10 million rand is really not for your lifestyle. It is to build the substratum base of your generational wealth transfer. Because if you're building wealth, it has to be transferred to the next generation. If you're building wealth, it has to be transferred to the next generation, unless you just want to be rich. Because if you just want to be rich, it just takes care of you in your lifetime. But if you want to be wealthy, then you want something to be transferred from one generation to another. Not just to die in the first generation of transfer, but go even to the 3rd generation of transfer. You understand? So do what matters now. All right? Everyone who's at the end of life says it goes very fast. Everybody who is at the end of the tunnel says that was very quick. I mean, 1 minute I was in high school, another minute I have so many children. I was just thinking about that when I was, by my mother-in-law. I was thinking about how now I'm the one responsible to also making sure that I'm taking care of my in-laws. And few hours ago, I was basically in high school. And suddenly all of that has changed in a minute. You understand? Number 5, seize small opportunities. Big will follow later. Don't look for the big. Seize the small opportunities and make sure that you maximize your opportune moment. Maximize your opportune moment, because opportunities are not always present, but they're always available. So that's why we have to learn to seize them, and you have to learn to discern which one is yours, because not every opportunity is yours. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. All right. So number 6, start with those that are close to you. Start with those who are close to you, and also the ones that you spend most of your time with. So build with your family. I mean, everything that I am today is because of building with my wife. It's because of the vision I shared with her the first day we met. And that's why it's important also who you marry. And that's why the 6th one, is it number 6? No, it's number 7. All right. So the sixth one, you start with those who are close to you. Don't go look for anybody. Start here. You understand? You have learned their personalities and characteristics, their weaknesses and their strength. And now that you have properly evaluated them, position them accordingly, and start right there. Number 7, marry right, or make sure that you are in the right relationship. Now, guys, this is very important. You see, you cannot marry a slaying queen and expect the result of marrying a praying queen. I gotta say that again, man. I have to really say that again. You cannot marry a slay queen and expect the result of marrying a praying queen. A slave queen wants instant gratification. It's all about her weave now. It's all about her shoes now. There's a wedding, there's a funeral, there's ladies' night. She's always looking for something to eat, but she has no time for working. No work ethic whatsoever. She wants the luxury of wealth, but not the work ethic of wealth. You see, you cannot, guys, you cannot, and please hear me loud and clear, you cannot have, an expectation and some sort of an imaginative concept of life that's worth millions of rand, but you have minimum wage work ethic. It has to be complementary. Your work ethic, and people say this all the time. One of my friends say to me, Kenneth, you work hard. You need to start playing hard. I said, no ways. It's all about the next generation. So some people want to work less but play hard. It's not possible. So who you marry is very important, guys. Who you marry is very important. My wife made a commitment to me, and she said to me, Kenneth, if this is where you're saying, if this is where you want to go, and this is what you are building towards, and this is who you say you are, and you were building towards, I'll quit my job. And she did. She quit her job, and it was paying her very well. I mean, this is, an European company that she was hired by, all over the United States, all over Europe, London, in Britain, everywhere. The company is solid. And what they have done is they have given them some of the craziest monthly packages. And she said, I'm going to give up all of that. And she moved from a mansion, from her previous life, and she started to live with me in the shack. And she settled for all of that until we grew to where we are today, where our company is recognized among blue chip companies because all of our clients are blue chip companies. So what am I saying to you? It's not easy to build a legacy. It takes an alpha male who makes a decision to say, you know what? If I have to pay the price now in order to smile later, I'm going to do that. You understand what I'm saying? It's all about legacy. A real man always think about legacy. That's a real man. It's all about legacy. It's not about enjoying quickly. It's about enjoying long. And it's about enjoying until the end of time. I don't want to enjoy quickly. I want to enjoy long and forever. And I want the next generation to enjoy as well. So this is Man Cave, man. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this is helping you. All right. This is where we have real man conversations right here on Man Cave. It's a man's world. I love you. I'll see you next time. God bless you.